Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to this Friday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a great show lined up for you. JC will be joining me here in just a second. We'll have Lindsey Scott as well. And the old quarterback for the 1980 national champs, the Georgia Bulldogs, Buck Belue. But let's go straight to the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, QB. I'm ready to go, man. This is always the biggest. I think I'm ready to go if I can talk. This is always the biggest Florida game of the year for me, my man.
Well, before we get started, you got your Gator gear on, so I guess you're going to be a Gator this weekend. I got my from my good friends at Dome Hats. It says cocktail party. It's the old school Spurrier visor. I need a young man visor. So look what else they sent me, JC.
Okay, let's see that.
You need to order one of these. Okay,
what do we have? Oh, look at that golf hat. Oh, what? Oh, wow. How about that? Dang,
it says Shane, Danny, Timmy. Okay. We got Mr. Two Bits. We got Mr.
Ty.
Two Bits hat.
Got the tie.
We got
sure.
Quez, Ike, and Riedel.
Sure.
Emmett, Eric, and Fred.
There you go. The three best.
Although I know this may sound bad, all the people that are on these hats had a lot of success against the Dawg except one.
Except one?
Who would that be?
Well, it would be one of the. It would be one of the running.
Easiest. It's
Emmett
easiest
Smith.
Emmett
Smith. I mean, he couldn't. Yeah.
Every one of these other guys dominated the Dawg.
Well, poor Emmett was in the wrong timetable.
He was in the wrong era. Well, he did have the opportunity to play the Dogs in '90. He chose not to.
That's right. Well, we can't blame him for what he did. He only got drafted the first round by the Cowboys.
That's right.
You got to give him credit for that, at least. Yeah.
All right, JC, big game, big week. We got some Peachland Dentistry picks here coming up. What else you got for us?
I was going to say some players to watch other than the obvious one, Kyle Trask, who, by the way, Kyle Trask through 4 games, QB, has thrown 18 touchdown passes. That is more than the 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2017 Florida teams. And in each of those seasons, it ties the numbers produced by the 14 and 16 teams. And he is the first player in school history with at least 4 touchdown passes in 4 straight games. The Gators have scored 168 points, which is the most in a 4-game stretch in the SEC since 2008, when the Gators did it with 178 points in a 4-game stretch. So offense. This is the year. If you're going to beat Georgia with all those banged up players, this is the team to do it. And I think we're going to see that on Saturday.
Well, I agree with all that.
I threw a lot at you. And I get that. But one of the players I'm really interested in how Brandon Cox will play because, we know Brandon having transferred from Georgia. He left the Bulldogs in August of 2019. He's been a really good player for Florida this year. He had to sit out a year. I think this is a personal game for him. I mean, this is a big one for Brandon Cox. And then Stetson Bennett, your Georgia quarterback, in the last 2 games has kind of been a little shaky with 5 interceptions in the Alabama and Kentucky games combined. So if Florida can find a way to get some pressure on him, maybe they can shake him up a little bit.
Yeah, we got a couple Facebook Live here comments brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law partner of the Florida Gators. Yeah. Gino says, what does QB's visor say? Gino, it says cocktail party, brother. It's the cocktail party tomorrow. There won't be many folks there, but it's there.
Yeah, they'll find places to party and to have cocktails. You just won't be able to do it around the stadium, unfortunately. That's just the way it is in 2020. And, we've talked about this being the only real true way to get to the SEC championship game. That game, too, will be much different. But it'll still mean something for the players and for the schools that play and obviously the fans who are going to watch. But you won't have the fanfare. You won't have a lot of the things that we've gotten used to in these last years.
This game is for all the marbles. Whoever wins this game will be going to Atlanta no matter what.
Pretty much, no doubt.
Well, I mean, they can lose another. They can lose another game, and it doesn't matter.
Right. And, the winner of this game, QB, has gone to the SEC championship game 10 out of the last 14 years. And we know that Georgia has won 3 straight games, and Georgia has won 6 of the last 9 games. So it's a streaky series, but it's time. I think this is the team that can do it with Florida. I love the way they were aggressive on defense last week. You're catching Georgia perhaps on a weak spell with some of these banged up players. This is the time to do it. You've got a hot quarterback, go win.
Yep, we got a couple more Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. I first want to thank McKay and Scott for sending stars on Facebook. I still don't know what those mean, so somebody can let me know what that means. Russell says he'll be there in section 140.
Yeah, all right.
Francis says, good morning. Really enjoyed the interview on TV 20 with Steve Russell. Your knowledge of the game and your recall of the first plays is amazing. Well, you'll always remember your first play. No matter what, Francis. So appreciate you tuning in today. All right, JC, we got an action-packed show. We got a bunch of Georgia Bulldogs heroes coming on here with Lindsey Scott and Buck Belue, the greatest play in the history of Georgia. So let's get straight into our Peachland Dentistry, JC and the QB weekend picks. What you got for us?
Here we go. You're 33-23. I'm 32-24 against the spread. We'll start with the NFL game because we want to end with Florida, Georgia. The New Orleans Saints are catching 4.5 points at Tampa Bay. That's our game of the week. New Orleans and Tampa Bay, +4.
I'll take the Bucks.
I'm going to go with the Saints because they're getting the 4. We've got some college games now, 9 college games for you. BYU laying 3.5 at Boise State. That Zach Taylor is on the Heisman watch for BYU. They're a pretty tough team.
Well, I don't know who Zach Taylor is, but I'll take Zach Wilson. I'll take Zach Wilson because he's probably going to be the 3rd quarterback taken behind Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. I've liked him since he's a freshman. BYU rolls.
I said Zach Taylor. Zach Wilson. Michigan laying 3 at Indiana.
This is a tough game.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. I mean, Michigan is Michigan, and they got to be better than Indiana. I'm going to go with the Wolves.
Yeah, and this is the kind of team that they usually beat. It's just the other ones they can't beat. I'm taking Indiana. I'm a believer. Houston getting 13.5 at number 6 ranked Cincinnati. Is Cincinnati going to stay unbeaten, and will they cover that spread?
What's the point spread?
13.5.
Oh man, I'm gonna stay on the Bearcat bandwagon. I'm going with the Bearcats.
I'm gonna lay that number. It's a big number. We're gonna go with Florida State this weekend. They're playing Pitt. They're getting 2 points at home. Can you believe that?
I love the Pitt Panthers.
I'm going to take FSU. I gotta believe they can beat this team at home.
Pitt's got a really good defense. FSU probably won't score much.
Let's go before we get into the SEC. The game of the week clearly is Clemson. DJ Unga laying 6 against Notre Dame, and that big offensive line. Ian Book, home game. Clemson traveling. They'll grow the grass this high. What do you think?
They can grow the grass for weeks. Iptay is going to roll in there. Yeah. Let me give you this stat, JC, or this fact. Okay. Notre Dame has lost 11 straight and 19 of its last 20 against any top 5 opponent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That team with the Paul in their helmet.
Yeah.
Going to embarrass them boys with the Golden Domers.
I would have thought that too, and I still do. But, man, 6 is not that many points. Notre Dame is getting a lot of respect here. They usually do until they get beat. And they'll lose this game.
Why it's 6? You know why it's 6? The best quarterback in the country is not playing, and you got 4 starters out on defense for them.
Yeah, Clemson. I know. But the Clemson backups are just almost as good as the starters. Yeah. So I'm taking Clemson too. They'll win the game by 10. In the SEC, 2 teams that just can't get out of their own way, but one of them's catching 18 points, and that's Vanderbilt at Mississippi State, baby. Vanderbilt at Mississippi State. Mississippi State can't score. Vanderbilt can do nothing, but they're getting 18. Why are they getting 18, QB?
I don't know, and I'm going to be dumb, and I'm going to take Vandy.
Well, it's not dumb when you're catching that many points, and I am as well, because Mississippi State shut out for the first time. Mike Leach shut out for the first time ever in any coaching capacity last week at Alabama. They are a disaster. They're losing so many players. He's going to have to he's scrapping the whole thing and going to have to start from scratch up in Starkville. It's too bad. Texas A&M laying 9.5. This could be an interesting game because you're catching South Carolina coming off an open date after just getting hammered in Baton Rouge. But you got to think they're going to play better. They should be inspired. But Texas A&M is hot right now. Some are saying that Texas A&M could be one of the final 4 teams if they go 9-1 and other things happen. I don't argue with that necessarily, but Texas A&M is laying 9.5 at South Carolina. That's a lot.
I think A&M will go 9-1. I think they'll be in the talk for the playoffs. I think they win against South Carolina, but I think South Carolina is going to keep it close.
Well, then I'm taking the 9.5. You can lay the 9.5. Are you taking South Carolina?
That's not what I just said. What did you just hear? I just said South Carolina is going to keep it close.
Okay, yeah. So you're getting the 9.5.
Correct.
All right. Tennessee, my Vols are traveling to Arkansas and somehow are a 1-point favorite. Arkansas lost last week, but Arkansas's had some success at home. Tennessee has kind of hit the skids here lately. I'm surprised by this line. I would have thought that Arkansas would have been the favorite here, but I'm going to take the home team getting 1.
I like Arkansas too. I don't think Tennessee. I told you months ago Tennessee was not very good. I still don't think they're any good.
Well, that brings us now to our game of the week and maybe the game of the week. Some say it's Notre Dame Clemson, but Florida and Georgia are playing for the SEC East. Both teams are ranked in the top 10. We all know you've been talking about it all week. Again, this is a time when the Gators are set up to win this game. They are a 3.5-point underdog to the Georgia Bulldogs. That tells you how good Georgia is with all that depth they had and all those great recruits they've signed. But like I said, Brandon Cox transferred from Georgia, came to Florida. It's a big game for him. It's a big game for the Gator Nation. You went 4-0 against the Dogs. A lot of those players that we talked about on those hats had all kinds of success with Georgia, but the Dogs have won 6 out of 9. What's going to happen Saturday, QB?
Well, I'm looking right here. I don't think anybody on these 3 hats, these 6 names, I think 5 of the 6 never lost.
Never lost, right.
Well, did Tebow ever lose to Georgia?
Tebow lost that game where they hopped around in the end zone.
Okay, so Timmy did lose to him, and I know he lost to him. And everybody else, I think, beat him.
He only lost once. I think that was – go ahead.
Here's the thing. Georgia, doesn't matter what – they got good players. I think they're well coached. Offensively, they're challenged at times. They're no different on offense now than they were last year. No difference. I don't care what you say about Jake Fromm. He was very average. The key to this game, it's very simple. If Georgia puts their hand on the ground and says, we're going to run it down your throat, and they are successful, Florida will not win. Florida's front 7, Brenton Cox with Kyrie Campbell coming back, those guys have got to control the offensive line. Front 7 is the key. Front 7 is the key for Florida. And then offensively, we'll score. We won't score like we've been scoring. Georgia's really good defensively. I don't care if they got 4 starters out or what have you. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think Florida's going to win it 27-20.
So you got to win them by 7. They're catching 3.5. I've got the Gators winning 31-26. So winning by 5. That's a magic score, that 31-26. So the Gators, is McPherson? I didn't hear anything about him this week. What's his story?
Well, nobody knows. I mean, Dan doesn't release it. You'll find out when they run out of the tunnel who's suiting up.
The other kid kicked it well too, though.
Yeah, we're fine. But I'm pretty sure McPherson will be back.
Okay, well, I like Florida winning by 5 points. They're catching 3.5. If I was in a sports bet atmosphere, I feel very confident about this game, and I understand how good Georgia is, but I can't imagine that they're this. I mean, they do have great players, but when you lose all those players to injury, they're banged up, and I think Florida's going to take advantage of that. So I think in a physical game, Florida wins, and we'll have the inside track to Atlanta to play Alabama.
Whoever wins this game is going to Atlanta, because you can still lose another game. It doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right. And the schedule is very easy, I think, going out of coming out of this game for Florida. So yeah, it's going to be tremendous. It's going to be a big atmosphere, even though there's not, the COVID-19 thing, everything going on. It's a big atmosphere for the players and the coaches, because this is a big one for Mullen. He needs this game. He needs to win this game. And I think it's important for Mullen to win this game, but smart too, because, they've come close. Fromm took them to a Rose Bowl. They won that game. Fromm was very close to winning a national championship game. So for all the things you say about the mediocrity of Jake Fromm, he was close to winning a championship, and he played good football and beat Florida.
But it wasn't because of him, bro. He had first round players everywhere.
Right, but they need this one too. So I can't wait. I can't wait for Saturday. I think we're all excited about it. We'll talk about it on Monday, QB.
I think it's supposed to rain. If it rains, I hope it doesn't rain too hard.
They're going to run the ball.
We'll see.
They're going to run the ball. Yeah.
So JC, have a good weekend.
Okay.
We will talk to you soon, my man.
Yeah.
Don't drink too many cocktails at your own cocktail party.
All right. I will stay good, and we'll talk to you about it on Monday.
All right. That's JC joining us on the Titan MR hotline with our Peachland Dentistry weekend picks. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We come back, we'll take a timeout. We'll be joined by Lindsey Scott. Run, Lindsey, run. We'll be right back.
Hey, Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration points where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Skechers, Sushi Hana, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Really want to thank JC for joining us early in the program, and also Chuck Oliver from the Chuck Oliver Show. But now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we are joined by Lindsey Scott. Oh, okay. We're still trying to get Lindsey on. All right. So I'm going to read a couple of Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law partner of the Florida Gators. I want to give a shout out to our man, our team over, our middle school team over in Baker County. I think they won their championship last night. Also, we got a couple of Facebook Lives here, as I mentioned, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Chris says, great defensive coach and kills the offense just like muscle cramp. Kirby Smart is Will Muschamp 2.0. It's funny, they're like best friends and all that good stuff. But now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Georgia Bulldog, great Lindsey Scott. Good morning, Lindsey. How are you?
Morning, Shane. Doing great this morning. Doing great.
I appreciate you taking the time. You know, before we talk a little bit about your career and the Georgia Bulldogs and all that, I get to see you once a year at the Desire Cup, where it's Danny Werfel's ministry. We raise money for a great charity, great cause. Georgia Bulldogs and Florida Gators come together. You're there about every year. What's that event mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. I talk to people all the time about it, and I, we kid and we talk about football and its competition and that kind of stuff, Georgia, Florida. But I think the thing that impresses me most about even Danny in that event and that organization is that he helps a lot of kids. He helps a lot of people. And I don't know, Shane, you see now in today's world, it's just it's sort of like a me society, but it's just a breath of fresh air when guys use their career and use their platform to help other people. And I think that Danny does a great job with that. And I'm really impressed with what he does. And I've been supporting it now for 10 years, and I really enjoyed it, and we have a good time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Lindsey, let's talk a little bit about Lindsey Scott growing up in the state of Georgia. When you were a youngster playing high school ball, were you going to be a Georgia Bulldog no matter what, or did you think about going to a couple other schools?
No, Georgia really wasn't even on the list. I think that growing up, I doing my recruitment, which was a good experience for me. I actually had 5 schools. I took 5. I think it was 5 official visits at that time. I think maybe it's still the same. I'm not sure, but Shane, when I came around in the SEC, as a matter of fact, even Florida was running the wishbone. I'm dating myself. Florida was running the wishbone, if you can believe that or not. They always had great athletes. They were running the wishbone. Of course, Tennessee really was the only team in the SEC that was really throwing it around a little bit, and that appealed to me as a receiver. And of course, there was Clemson in South Carolina, believe it or not, and then my official visit to Florida. It was Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Clemson. And I took those official visits, and actually I committed to Johnny Majors up at Tennessee. That was going to be his first year back, and they just appealed to me as far as what they were doing and what they were offering, and just the kind of offense that they were running. And I think Georgia was running the veer at the time, and they were not throwing the ball around a whole lot. So they recruited me hard, but I actually committed to Tennessee, and eventually, I laughed at myself. Eventually, I was 17 years old, 18 years old at the time, and hell, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But eventually, I ended up changing my mind and going to Athens. But initially, I committed to Tennessee.
Okay, I got you. Well, you get to Athens, and obviously, you had a tremendous career. But let's talk about in 1980, Georgia wins their only national championship, and probably the biggest play in the history of Georgia football is Run, Lindsey, Run. Buck Belue to Lindsey Scott. Take us back to that day, how it all unfolded, and I know you broke a lot of Gators' hearts.
Well, we were that thing was getting away from us. We came out of the gate. I mean, with Walker, we came out of the gate. Obviously, we were running the football and featuring him, but we came out of the gate, like gangbusters, I think, and actually led late into the third quarter. Actually led late into the third quarter, and then typically, like we do, and it's not a negative thing, but defenses adjust, Shane. Defenses adjust, and Florida adjusted, and they shut that run down in the second half. And what they had was they had Wayne Peace at quarterback. They had Tyrone Young, Collinsworth at receiver, and they were able to they were going stuff that we had never seen. And I think it was sort of like a beginning a trend in college football. They were going 4 wides, man. They were going 4 wides. They did have they had I think it was James Jones was a hell of a running back in the backfield, but they were featuring him, but they were going 4 wides, and they just spread that thing out. And they shut us down in the second half. They came back and they threw the ball all around the field, and we had our backs against the wall, man. We had our backs against the wall. And as a matter of fact, I think what happened that weekend was Notre Dame actually was in Atlanta playing Georgia Tech, and they were ranked. Notre Dame was actually ranked number 1 in the country. I think we were like 2, and Georgia Tech ended up tying Notre Dame. But we were able to kind of regroup there late in the ball game in the second half, and we were able to hit that thing late. But basically, Shane, what they were in a zone, a prevent zone, and we were able to hit that thing in the middle. And it's one of those plays where the defense is flowing one way and the ball goes the other way. I break one way, and you catch the defense flowing the other way. And I just had enough speed. That thing opened up to where I was able to take it the distance. But we pulled it out. But I tell you what, we had our back against the wall. They had came back, and they were getting ready to win that ball game, and we were able to pull it out there at the end.
Yeah, it's got to be the greatest play in Georgia football history, no doubt. You spoke of Herschel Walker, a freak of an athlete. Just talk briefly about what it was like playing with Herschel.
Well, he was, and of course now since Walker and probably a little bit before Walker, the SEC's always featured those backs, man. And he was one of those kids that was young, he was big, he was fast, he was physical. And he fit right into what Coach Dooley wanted to do. He fit right into what we did offensively, and that was to feature that back, man, feature that big back, run that ball, throw it when we had to, throw it when we needed to, but basically we were gonna run the football. But great guy. He was a freshman in 1980, but he just sort of gave us that spark that we needed at running back. He was that guy that, and I think we were, what people don't realize, we were sort of like a junior and a senior laden team. So we had some guys that had played and had some experience, but we needed that big play guy, that big guy at running back, because that's what we done. That was gonna sort of make the difference for us. And he was just the perfect fit, but great guy. And he really just gave us that shot in the arm that we needed on offense.
Hey, Chris, Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Lindsey Scott, Georgia Bulldog, great here on the Titan MR hotline. We got a couple Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law partner of the Florida Gators. Scott says, I wish Lindsey would have gone to Tennessee. I was a sophomore at UF when he made that play. That play seemed to last forever, and we had that game won. And then Rick says, Belue to Scott, the greatest moment in Georgia football history. I agree with that 100%. Lindsey, let's talk about Vince Dooley. Great coach there. What was it like playing for him?
Well, it was an experience, and Coach was he was an SEC that had been around when I got to Georgia in '78. I think he was in his maybe his 14th, 15th season at Georgia when I got there, and he had a great reputation of having great football teams, discipline. I mean, he did things the right way, and he was just already for lack of a better word, he was already a legend in the FCC. He originated in Auburn, went to school at Auburn, cut his teeth under Suge Jordan over at Auburn, but he was solid, and I think that's what made the difference when you get to recruiting. It's like he was solid, and he was going to be there. He was going to be there the whole 4 years you were there. I think that's what they pushed as far as recruiting was concerned. You had a lot of situations that were unstable at the time, like they are every year. Every school is not as stable. It's like, is the coach going to be there for 4 years? Is he going to leave, or what's going to be the situation? And that's what Georgia saw at the time. That Coach Dooley was solid. He was going to be there, and he was a guy that you were going to be able to deal with for 4 straight years without worrying about dealing with another coaching staff and other people like that. But my relationship with Coach has really grown. Probably, Shane, I'm probably closer to Coach now than I was when I played with him. I think that of course, I've grown up a little bit, and the relationship has grown over the years. But super guy. I mean, but I think that, at 17, 18, a lot of times the lessons that they're trying to give you, you really don't realize till you get older. But I was fortunate enough to play for Coach because that situation at Georgia was solid. He was there and, for lack of a better word, he ran the show. And that was a good thing. He ran the show. That was a good thing,
Yep. Lindsey, so let's talk about, did you ever lose in the Florida-Georgia game?
No, I didn't. We were fortunate enough to win that game all 4 years that I was there. It was always we look forward to getting to Jacksonville. Always was a tough ball game. We won a club. Matter of fact, the score in my freshman year and that junior year was the same score, 26-21. My sophomore year, we went in there and we won. I think it was the score. The difference was a little bit more, but no, I played on 4 football teams that never lost to Florida. We never lost to Florida, but it was always a close ball game, and it was a ball game that always meant something. And just like it is this year, it's like, the winner goes on and the loser sort of like, you're going to have to take that second tier bowl or whatever. But no, I was fortunate. During those times that I was there that we won every year.
Yep, and I'm the other way around. I won every year as well. So let's talk about this, Lindsey, because I don't think people, until you play in this game, you realize how different it is. I don't know if it's hatred, but when you got the stadium split in half, you come over those bridges from the hotel where all the RVs are. Now it's going to be a little bit different this year, but just talk about what it was like for you guys to play in this game every year, because it was my favorite game to play in.
Well, Shane, it's big time college football is what it is. It's big time college football, and especially like I said, it's always been that way. It's always been that way. Florida, Georgia, it's always been that way. The fan bases are they expect their team to win. They're loyal. People come down, they have a good time. And like I say, it's just big time college football. And over the years, that game has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because, it always means something. You go into that ball game and it always means something. And we went, like I said, I played on some teams that never lost to Florida, but then you get a stretch where you guys come in, they bring in Coach Spurrier, and hell, we don't win for the next 15, 20 years, I think it's 15, 16 years, really. We don't win. I mean, we can't do it. And what you guys are doing and what Coach Spurrier brought in there, I think a lot of people had really never seen in that league, and he was throwing the ball around and he just, Florida, you just couldn't, Georgia couldn't beat them. They couldn't beat them. So that's the thing is, you got the flows and your ebbs with that ball game, but it's just big time Georgia football, man. It's like a bowl game in the middle of the season. But I think the big thing, and it always means something. It always means something, and that's no different this year. That's no different this year. But with the pandemic, the hoopla is going to be a little less. But you got 2 teams in the top 10, Shane. You got 2 teams in the top 10 that are looking to move on. And if the team that wins, your goals are still in front of you, And so it hadn't really changed a whole lot. Of course, we got this situation this year with this pandemic, but it's Georgia, Florida again with a lot on the line, and you still got two rabid fan bases that are looking for their team to win, and so it hadn't changed a whole lot.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Lindsey. It's a 2-part question. You talked about Coach Spurrier coming in and changing the SEC football, throwing it around. Would Lindsey Scott, the great Georgia wideout, love to play for Coach Spurrier's offense? And the second question is, give me your prediction on the game Saturday.
Well, I tell Coach Spurrier that all the time. I kid with him. I've been able to see him at Danny's event the last few years, and I've told him personally myself that, Coach, I would have loved to been in that offense that you had. And of course, typical Coach Spurrier said, "Yeah, we'd have had some fun, man. We'd have had some fun." And that's the response that I'm looking for. I mean, those look like you guys were having fun, man.
Absolutely.
You were having fun. Going around, and you were getting everybody involved, man, and that was just something that from a receiver standpoint, that's just refreshing. But every chance I the last few years I've told him, Coach, I would love to play in that offense, and he said, typical Coach Burke said, yeah, man, we'd had some fun. And I think that's what appealed to me, especially from coming from where I come from. The receivers, they really actually got involved and looked like you guys were having fun because you were throwing it around. And as far as the prediction is concerned, man, I'm concerned, Shane. I'm just concerned. I'm gonna just be straight up with you. I'm concerned. I think you're a quarterback, and I think quarterback play is huge in the SEC. You know that quarterback play is huge, and I think it's right now there's some concern at quarterback play. At Georgia, and it's not anything against Stetson or anything, and nobody personal, but I think that the teams that have won those games, at least the last 3 years, that quarterback position has made a difference. We had you guys had Felipe Franks, now you got Trask in there, and Trask is scary to me. I'm just going to tell you, he's scary to me. He's scary to me because he's able to get the ball out. He's comfortable in Mullen's offense, and I think it's going to come down to quarterback play, man. It's going to come down and Florida definitely could put points on the board, and we're beat up defensively. But as far as the prediction, man, I'm just worried. I just think it's going to be a close ball game, but I'm hoping that this defense can slow Pitts and Tony and Trash down a little bit, man, and maybe we'll have a chance. I think that the defense is going to have to slow Florida down, but offensively, if we're not able to put up some points, it's going to be a long day. I'm just going to, hell, Shane, I'd be remiss if I just think it's going to be a close ball game, man, and I'm just, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be able to go back to Georgia if I picked Florida. but I mean, it's just going to be a close ball game. And but if Georgia can't score any points, they're going to have problems because Trask and those guys, Pitts, they're going to put up some points. They're going to put up some points. So we got to be able to match that. And defensively, we beat up. But I'm just going to go 27-24 Georgia. But I mean, I couldn't go back home. I couldn't go back to Athens if I picked the Gators.
I hear you, my man. Well, that's good stuff. It should be a dang good game. We appreciate you taking the time. Run, Lindsey, run. Let's hope we don't have any Run, Lindsey, run plays for the Dawg Saturday. But we appreciate it, my man, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, that's Bulldog great Lindsey Scott join us here on the Titan MR Hotline.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Pomodoro Cafe, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Friday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators come to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Skechers, Sushi Hana, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Well, hopefully the Gators will be celebrating tomorrow afternoon. But first, we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by the one guy that broke the Gator fans' backs, Buck Belue. Good morning, Buck. How are you?
Shane, good to be with you, buddy.
Absolutely. Buck, let's go back. It's been 40 years since the Georgia Bulldogs won their national championship. You were the quarterback. I know you've been doing a little series, a couple of podcasts. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, since we hadn't won another national title in the 40 years, we thought it'd be a good idea to go back and just do a deep dive into that season to celebrate the 40th anniversary. And so during the shutdown, the COVID shutdown, did 12 to 15 Zoom interviews talking with not only my teammates, but some of the other opposing teammates too, like Wayne Peace joined us for the Georgia-Florida game episode. We've done eight episodes. And right now, we this past Wednesday just dropped the final episode, which details the Sugar Bowl. Herschel separates his shoulder on the second play, leaves the field. He comes back, runs it 36 times for 150 yards and a couple of touchdowns against the top-rated defense in college football, Notre Dame. And so we're in the middle of that episode, wrapping it up.
Good stuff. Well, Buck, you grew up in Valdosta, Georgia. Did you always want to be a Georgia Bulldog growing up?
Well, I was a football fan, SEC football fan, and gosh, I remember following. The Gators were just right down the street, so we had a lot of Florida fans in Valdosta. And I went down and visited, saw the Florida State game in 1978. I think Larry Key was the running back at FSU, and every time he ran the ball, everybody would shake their keys in that visitor section. I do remember that. But yeah, I looked around. I grew up a Georgia fan, but just a fan of SEC football for the most part.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the 1980 Florida-Georgia game. Obviously, Florida, I grew up in Mississippi, so I had to learn about the rivalry when I came and played in it. As always, Florida was so close to winning that SEC, but Georgia would break their hearts. And then you scramble outside the pocket, do what you're not supposed to do, Buck Belue, throw across your body back to the middle of the field, and you hit Lindsey Scott with probably, would you say that's the greatest play in Georgia football history?
Well, I don't want to be the judge and jury, but it sure made a lot of people happy in the Bulldog Nation. I knew about the rule. You don't want to throw back across late to the middle of the field, but the heck with it, man. That ball had to get to Lindsey Scott in a hurry. Time was running out, and it was one of those predetermined things. When the play came in, I anticipated what the play would be and knew exactly before I even stepped in the huddle that ball had to go to Lindsey Scott.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest calls by an announcer with Larry Munson's call on that. Even if you're a Gator fan, you got to like that call. It's a one for the history book. So y'all go on and win the national title. And talk a little bit about, as you mentioned, Herschel was banged up against Notre Dame, but I mean, what kind of player was Herschel Walker?
Well, that was the greatest big game performance I've ever been associated with. It really changed his running style. He was running straight up and taking shots to his abdomen, his midsection. And I was just astounded at his level of competitiveness in that period, that Notre Dame game there. He's unbelievable. I mean, he's a great receiver, guy could block, just so many great memories playing alongside him. I'm just, feel, like I did the right thing going down to Wrightsville a couple of times during the recruiting process, drove down from Athens to try to answer any questions I could and make sure he was the missing piece for us. We had a good football team, but in the I formation, we needed a dominating running back. And so we needed to get him that recruiting cycle. And when he came in, we thought, hey, we've got enough to win a championship here.
We're speaking with Buck Belue on the Titan MR hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at BuckBelue8. You can also listen to him on 680 The Fan up in Atlanta, Georgia. Buck, Vince Dooley, Coach Spurrier had so much success as a coach against Georgia, going 11-1. And I remember when he got the job, he said, if we're going to win SEC titles, we've got to win road games in the conference, and we got to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. And I know Vince Dooley was one who, pumped up the opposing team. They're bigger, stronger, faster than us. What was it like playing for Vince Dooley, and what did the Florida-Georgia game mean to him, and how did he portray it to you players?
From afar, I really respected Spurrier and, did it privately some of the time during that Georgia-Florida week. But Coach Dooley was a guy that, I found in the recruiting process, there was a lot of people promising a lot of things. And, he was one of the few guys you could trust. The handshake, the word, it meant something with him. And, that made me feel good about signing with Georgia at the time. But he was a tough guy, man. I'll tell you now, 40 years later, it's easy to walk up and put my arm around him and, have a good conversation. Back then, we were all scared of him.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's jump forward here. Kirby has done a really good job taking over the Georgia program. Y'all played for a national championship a couple of years ago. He's had some issues offensively. We know he's a defensive-minded guy, but, what is the problem? And I don't know if it's a problem, but, Justin Fields leaves the program. Now, even if Justin Fields stays and is a Georgia Bulldog, he may not put up the numbers that you see at Ohio State because the system is different. But why hasn't he been able to get that one quarterback that he's needed?
Well, I think he looks at the quarterback position as like any other on the football team. And I know so many other coaches look at it a different way. I think he just says it's like the other positions, so we're going to go with who grades out the highest. And we're going to go back out there and recruit another big-time quarterback and bring him in, and then we're going to see who grades out the highest. And I think with Fields, it was more about the fit. He came to Georgia with this idea that he was going to improve his pocket passing skills to increase his leverage with the NFL. But look, I think somebody in his family should have said, look, you got to look at the offense here. You're a spread guy. You're going to go to Georgia, try to learn a new scheme, a drop back scheme. And he's run spread in high school. So that's what Ohio State's done. And you see what he's capable of doing right there. To me, it was all about the fit, the scheme. I'm not sure enough of these guys being recruited pay attention to that.
That's a great point. Buck, so give me your assessment, how you think this game's going to play out tomorrow.
Well, I think it's pretty easy to determine what the big keys are. And for Georgia, they better be able to run it, Shane, because that passing game's struggling right now. George Pickens, coming into the year, regarded as one of the top receivers in college football. He's barely been involved. So they better be able to run it successfully. And then for the Gators, they got to protect Kyle Trask. Georgia leads the SEC in sacks. They've got numerous guys that can come off the edge. Azeez Ojulari on Stone Forsyth is a really important matchup in the game. If they can protect Trask, especially with LeCount out of the game. I watched last year's game over earlier this week and saw LeCount shadowing Kyle Pitts about half the time. And they don't have anybody to replace LeCount. So they better get pressure on Trask if they want to win this game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It all comes down to can the Gators stop Georgia's run game? And then if they can protect Trask, they'll have some opportunities in the pass game. Buck, I want to ask you this because, it hasn't been much talk this year, but in the past few years, there's been talk about moving this game out of Jackson, going home and home. You guys, what's the thought process from a Georgia guy, an old Georgia guy? Do you like it in Jacksonville?
Oh, I love it. I wouldn't have it anywhere else. It's just so unique to college football. I know Oklahoma, Texas, is similar, but there's nothing like it. I just looked at it like, you've been through this grind of the SEC season, and it's more or less like a break in the action as far as like a bowl game toward the end of the year that was refreshing. It was exciting. It was different. So I hope it stays there. As a fan, it's been great to go down and, talk about the game on the show and then play some golf with friends. I just, these young guys, I don't think they want to stay at the beach and play golf. They want it home and home. But I'm hoping it's going to stay in Jacksonville.
I'm right there with you, man. There's nothing like the atmosphere. It'll be different this year, obviously, with not everybody there. And I'll never forget my first Georgia game when we came across that Matthews Bridge from the hotel. You come winding down towards the old Nasty Gator Bowl, and it's packed with all the RVs. The Georgia fans are flipping you off, throwing Jack Daniel bottles at the bus. It was just, that's what college football is all about, right?
Well, my parents would always go to the game growing up in Valdosta, and they took us to a Georgia game during the year, but it was always in Athens. And my freshman year, we came over that bridge, and it took my breath away, and we got off that bus, and I realized at that point why Mom and Dad were leaving the kids at home. This is an adults-only game down there.
No doubt. Last thing, Buck, let everybody know if they want to listen to you up in the Atlanta area, what time you're on and how they can check your show out.
Well, yes, 1 to 3, 680 The Fan. We've got a mobile app that people listen to anywhere, anytime, 680 mobile app, 680thefan.com. We're streaming. And, we've talked a lot about Georgia, Florida this week. I'm now with Hudson Mason, another former Georgia quarterback. And we've gone all in on college football on our show. So we're talking at 24/7, 5 days a week.
Awesome. That's great stuff, man. We appreciate you taking the time to join our program this morning. Y'all stay safe up there in Atlanta. Hope we have a good game to watch tomorrow.
Let's hope, Shane. Thanks for coming on with us earlier this week.
No problem. That's Buck Belue. Join us here on the Titan MRI Hotline. Thanks, Buck.
Thanks, Shane. Have a good one.
Yep. Well, we had an action-packed show today, folks. We had JC, he and I doing our Peachland Dentistry weekend picks. And then we had old Lindsey Scott talking about his tremendous play there for the Georgia Bulldogs against the Gators. And then the quarterback of that 1980 national championship team, Buck Belue, join us. Next week, you have a tremendous lineup as well. If you hadn't checked it out, go to our Facebook Live page. It'll tell you the entire lineup for next week. And gosh, hopefully on Monday, we're going to be sitting in this chair right here talking about a Gator victory. Gosh, Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending, right? Helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. As I predicted earlier, I think Gators win 27-20 over the Georgia Bulldogs, and that will seal our ticket to Atlanta to face Alabama. I don't know if we want to play Alabama, but that's where we'll be headed. So hopefully it'll turn out that way. Also, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Got a couple of text and Facebook Live comments here. Let me get to these before we get out of here. Let's see. John says, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. He says, sounds like he is leaning towards Florida. He's probably talking about Buck Belue. Yeah, I think a lot of Georgia fans are concerned only because they have so many players out and they've seen what we've done offensively. But anyway, enjoy the game, folks. Let's hope the Gators win this thing. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care, and we'll see you on Monday.
Hi there, everybody. This is Steve Spurrier, former University of Florida head football coach, and I've been blessed with a lot of things during my playing and coaching career here at the University of Florida. Lucky to win the Heisman Trophy way back in '66. We won the national championship in '96, and now we're bringing that same winning attitude to the restaurant game. In the spring of 2021, we're opening Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point right here in Gainesville. So we need the 5-star recruits at all the positions in the restaurant, from the front to the rear. So if you think you got what it takes to make the cut and work for us, I invite you to have a one-on-one meeting and greet with our management team on Wednesday, November 11th at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. Learn all about our job opportunities with the restaurant. Now let me make this clear. We're only looking for the best of the best. So if you love your job and you love the restaurant business and want to be part of the most elite team here in Gainesville, then we want you to come and learn more about this experience. With your help and the best food, drinks, and services, we'll make Spurrier's Restaurant the envy of the Bulldogs, the Seminoles, the Vols, and everybody. So we look forward to seeing you November 11th, and we plan to meet at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. So go to SpurrierDraft.com, Fill out the application, and we'll see you then. Take care and go Gators.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble, can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators!